This offseason, the 49ers made the most necessary change, and it's probably not what you think. We're not talking about players. We're not even talking about coaching additions. We're going to talk about it in this episode. We're going to break it all down, and later we'll also be breaking down key position groups ahead of mandatory minicamps. Please consider hitting that subscribe button. It genuinely does help me out. Very much appreciate it. But let's jump straight into the most recent news coming out of ESPN from Nick Wagner, talking about this huge shift that the 49ers have made. And yes, I'm just going to give it a big word, a big category called culture. Okay. Now stick around for later in the episode if you want to get to some of those storylines around OTAs into training camp, because that's that shift that's happening in the next couple of days. But first, I want to give Nick Wagner a huge shout out and talk about what he said in his article today. I think it was today, about a refreshed 49ers setting the tone early after missing the playoffs in 2024. Of course, I've thrown a photo up there of some of the boys in February. I think it was February, maybe January, when they were in Mexico together. But whatever the case, let's get into it. So started off, Nick Wagner, starts off this article quoting Kyle Shanahan, talking about that shift from last year to this year, saying this: I talked about how the season ended the year before, and how when I felt them all come back, I felt that guys weren't ready to come back, talking about last offseason. But I told them how I won't really understand it this year. Not that this was right or wrong, but I couldn't comprehend it. We're off 5 weeks earlier. And obviously, that has been a major factor. That conversation has been a major factor that's played into it. We've heard multiple players talk about Shanahan's speech after the season was over. As the 49ers prepare to wrap up the final piece of their offseason program this week, a mandatory minicamp Tuesday and Wednesday, it's been clear that Shanahan's message was received loud and clear. Within the first 2 weeks of Phase 1, every player had been present for at least one session. That included players involved in high-stakes contract negotiations, such as tight end George Kittle, linebacker Fred Warner, and quarterback Brock Purdy. Left tackle Trent Williams and defensive end Nick Bosa, star veterans who haven't always been present for the early part of the program, were also present. The same was true for key players coming off of injury, such as running back Christian McCaffrey and receiver Brandon Aiyuk. Everybody showing up. And all the names on the screen right here it feels like, I'm not actually sure this would have happened. I don't think Brock Purdy would have held out, for example, last offseason. If last offseason were the time he was going to hold out, just didn't seem in his nature. But when you look at the names on this screen, you would not be wildly surprised a year ago to hear, oh, this person's holding out or this person's whatever, based on the situation. Shanahan's message resonated enough that team leaders didn't feel the need to reach out to one another to see if they could rally teammates to show up. The sting of last season's finish and the drama that both preceded it and defined it had left enough of a bad taste that the 49ers were eager to return to work. Indeed, the more pressing right now is getting the young players up to speed as soon as possible after saying goodbye to 16 veterans in free agency and trading wideout Deebo Samuel. The 90-man roster has 36 players with fewer than 2 years of NFL experience. When John Lynch talked about getting younger, that is what John Lynch was talking about. 36 players on the 90-man right now with 2 years or less of NFL experience. Wow. From that group, it's not hard to envision as many as 18, Nick Wagner writes, 18 of those players either starting or playing a significant depth role in 2025. That's a major departure from previous seasons where there sometimes weren't even enough spots for the drafted rookies to make the 53-man roster, let alone the undrafted free agents. It's why Bosa and defensive line coach Chris Kocurek have already praised first-round rookie Mykel Williams' willingness to learn and chase the ball, even when plays have gone away from him. Warner has been a willing mentor to third-round rookie Nick Martin, who has made a good early impression. And fourth-round wideout Jordan Watkins has taken advantage of his chances with Aiyuk and second-year receiver Ricky Pearsall with the hamstring, missing chunks of organized team activities. We knew that we were going to be getting ourselves into going into this year with a whole new group, a lot of young players, the importance of guys being back, said Fred Warner. Almost done. It's very different looking, a very different looking team this year. So I think that was important, and it's just been cool to be out here during a time when I can kind of relax and have some fun on the weekends and hang out with the guys a little bit, said Nick Bosa. I've got a Purdy quote in there in just a second too. That's also opened up the door for more team building opportunities at the team facility and away from it. In late May, Shanahan and the Niners welcomed members of the Navy SEALs training team to spend 4 days with the team. Those sessions included presentations on how to set a standard and build a culture, as well as some physical challenges focused on working together. It's the third time since Shanahan took over as coach in 2017 that the SEALs have visited the club. And here's Brock Purdy's quote: "It's just so important that we're just around each other a lot, doing a lot of different activities and continuing to build chemistry." That's the kind of stuff that matters when you get late in the season and things get tough and you go through some tough things as a team. You want to be able to know the guy next to you and what he's about, and that he's going to have your back. Wow. I didn't even give you the whole article. Nick Wagner, great article. You should go check it out on ESPN, of course. But he did a really, really good job. One of my favorite articles I've read this offseason of putting a whole comprehensive list together of all of the factors that are playing, not even all of them, but the big factors that are playing into how this team is different this year. It's going to be different this year. And I get it, right? I know that it's June 9th and I'm talking to you about this, and I get it. But remember in the middle and at the end of training camp last year, how much people were talking about the vibes being off last year. And you know what? That is something worth considering. There's something about that. The culture wasn't right last year. And it exposed in multiple situations. It was exposed in Deebo Samuel, for example. Basically, hitting Tabor Pepper upside the head and being frustrated and yelling at each other because Jake Moody missed a kick. There were moments where it boiled over. But there was also just a lot of personal tragedy on multiple players' lives at home that were affecting the way that they were playing, were affecting vibes in the locker room. Obviously, you can't prevent that stuff. Things like that are going to happen. But I love that they're getting the culture right in OTAs right now so that they can go into this upcoming season ready for tough things to happen, more prepared as a team to handle that stuff. Now, as we look to mandatory minicamp, another article came out from ESPN that I thought was pretty decent. I'll just give you the short version of what ESPN analyst Nick Wagner, him again, had to say about mandatory minicamp, what we're looking for. And then I'm going to break out into all the different position groups briefly and just look at those big storylines that we need to be paying attention to. San Francisco 49ers, Nick Wagner says the biggest thing to be looking out for is the 49ers revamped defense. San Francisco said goodbye to its coordinator and 9 defenders who started at least one game last season to try to return to the group to previously dominant levels. The 49ers dipped into their successful past, bringing back coordinator Robert Saleh. Saleh has built San Francisco's defense from the ground up before, and though he has some core guys at the center of the group this time, the rebuild won't be easy. The mandatory minicamp offers a closer look at how Saleh will make the pieces, including 3 potential rookie starters on the defensive line, fit into a scheme he said he has evolved since 2020 when he was last San Francisco's coordinator. So that's a nice little lead in to what to expect and what to be looking for mandatory minicamp. Obviously, mandatory minicamp is not training camp. It is still different. So huge disclaimer here that everything I'm about to talk about starts now, but none of this is decided during OTAs. But there are still big question marks that start tomorrow with mandatory minicamp that we're going to be keeping an eye on. I already showed you guys this 49ers depth chart of defensive line grades if you haven't seen this. But if you're looking at the depth chart, in my mind, the cut line is somewhere around 10. Could be 9, depending on what we've had in previous years. But because there's so many rookies, in my mind, it's like, let's keep that cut line at 10. And the names you're really going to want to be watching, obviously toward the top, where you have a huge chunk of no experience, Mykel Williams, Alfred Collins, and C.J. West in the NFL. Obviously, Bryce Huff works his way into the depth chart. And so you'll be watching him, of course. But then you got YGM, Jordan Elliott, Kevin Givens, Sam Okuanu, and Evan Anderson are all players that I think are fighting for a spot and probably have a good shot of making the team. But there's still other dudes that could be left out of that are decent players. That's a good sign. Okay, defensive storylines in general. Biggest question marks for the defensive line. Already kind of talked about it, so I won't go crazy on it, but we have yet to see Alfred Collins. That's a question mark that we'll have to wait to see, of course. But then CJ West and Mykel Williams are watching those guys develop, of course, and then getting more eyes on Bryce Huff. We got to see a little bit of him. It'd be nice to see more of him, of course. Why not get some eyes on that guy? In the linebacker room, this is going to be really, really interesting as we're preparing for training camp in several weeks. D. Winters, is he going to earn Dre Greenlaw's old role? Can he get there? Or is all of the hype around Nick Martin going to come to fruition and we're going to see a new linebacker take that role, leaving D. Winters back in his basically the role that he was in last year? On the cornerback position, or at the cornerback position, is Upton Stout going to be able to take on that nickel corner role? Is he going to be able to be there in nickel packages and kind of be able to just leave Demo there in the corner and have him just be a lockdown corner? That's an interesting question that I think we're going to want to be watching on that one. Safeties, of course. Who is going to step up with Mustafa and with Tig Brown, both of them being injured? Coming back from injury. Obviously, Jair Brown is going to be back a little bit sooner than Malik Mustafa. And Malik Mustafa, even when he does come back, he's going to need a sufficient ramp-up period. So there's definitely going to be need for like the Richie Grants, so for some of these guys to step in there and push for that role heading into the season. Then when you look over at the depth chart for the wide receivers, we moved kind of to offense. I haven't finished depth charts for everything else yet, but I did get to the wide receiver one. The main names, you know who the most of these guys are, but the main names to really be watching for: Jacob Cowing, Jordan Watkins, Isaiah Nair, Tariq Owens, Junior Bergen. These are guys that you're going to want to be keeping an eye on and paying attention, wherever you're at, social media, articles, whatever, on how these guys are doing, because those are the guys that really have a shot, that are really fighting for this team. And I would like to think a guy like Tariq Owens, if he's made the improvement that the 49ers believed he could, if he's not making the team, he's probably getting picked up by somebody else at the end of training camp. That's a long way away from now. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there, right? Isaiah Nair, okay, of course, is that size plus speed. That's something worth considering, that an incredible burner. Jacob Cowing is looking to make a big step up this year. I'm not going to go any deeper in this because I've already talked about the wide receiver depth chart. We'll get into that as we go. But other position groups outside of that. And you know what? I did say Junior Bergen. Junior Bergen really, in my mind, is in that like Ray McLeod situation. We'll get back to Junior when we get to the special teams storylines. But something about Junior Bergen, he's going to need to do that Ray McLeod thing where he develops enough as a wide receiver in a short period of time to get the opportunity for special teams. And how much freedom is Brant Boyer going to get from Kyle Shanahan to choose his guy for punt return? That'll be interesting in itself. But on the offensive line front, I like the question on, will Ben Barch be able to win the spot at left guard? Will we be able to see what he did in a brief moment last season throughout the entirety of a season? And will he be able to do it consistently? That's going to be a question mark position, but of course, next to Trent Williams. So, that helps for sure. On the wide receiver front, already kind of talked about that one. I'll skip that one. On the running back front, can Christian McCaffrey stay healthy? That's a question mark for sure. Isaac Guerrero, does he take a step up, especially in the passing game? For some reason, he has the wide receiver background, so I'd like to see him take a step up in catching the ball and running with it and doing some of that stuff, because I think that would put Brock Purdy in a better position if he could get more comfortable with checkdowns to Isaac Guerrero. Of course, Jordan James. Is he going to be able to seal that running back 3 spot? I'd like to think they did not draft him to not make the team, but he does have to prove himself still, and Patrick Taylor Jr. is definitely going to be arguing his point or trying to prove his point in training camp this season. So for sure, been a lot of fun to watch what we've been able to see of him, but I'd like to see a lot more, of course, on the tight end front. This one's pretty much locked in on George Kittle and Luke Farrell. I guess the question marks would be Does Ross Dwelly remake the team? What about Braden Willis? I mean, the Shanahan loves Braden Willis, so we'll have to wait to see on that. I'm not going to really be watching too deeply on the tight end front, except for, if we can get any insight on how they might be setting up this year, 2 tight end sets, things like that. And then on the quarterback front, really not till training camp, but Curtis Rourke is definitely believed to be better than Tanner Mordecai by most people and most depth charts. But Tanner Mordecai looked really good last year as an undrafted rookie quarterback in things like training camp and stuff. So we'll have to wait and see there. And then, of course, Mac Jones has plenty of interesting storylines from several different angles on him to be watching for. And then finally, of course, we have special teams. And this is the one that, you see what I'm saying, guys? There's so much that we have to figure out as a team still. Like I say we, like it's my thing, like I get to figure it out. There's so much that the 49ers still have to figure out about special teams. So many question marks they still need to answer. Obviously, punt returner is one of those there. Cowing versus Burgeon on punt returner. I guess you could even go kick return if you want. You could say Grendo versus who? Grendo versus Ricky Pearsall? I don't know. I mean, the new age kick return thing is a little bit different. I think Grendo is probably the prototypical fit for that. Makes sense in terms of his size and speed. I would like to see Isaac Grendo be that returner, give him that shot, but we'll have to wait and see on that, of course. But the biggest one is who's going to be kicking for the 49ers. Is it Greg Joseph? Or is it Jake Moody? That's going to be the one that I think is going to be the most electric question on special teams that we need to be paying attention to. Let me know in the comments if there's a big question mark you feel like I have missed out or have not commented on enough, because there are definitely huge storylines as we get into mandatory minicamp the next couple of days and then get toward training camp, which is coming now. Scary soon. It's coming faster than you would think. Still not soon enough, of course. I wish it were tomorrow, but it's not. We'll take what we can get, though. Lots of great footage of players, highlights, things like that. We'll get all of the articles and all that stuff that will come out from press conferences. So I'm excited about all of that, and I will definitely be talking about it throughout the next several weeks. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all of it, because that is, as I said, 1 day away, and it's 2 days of mandatory minicamp. So it's going to be an absolute blast. Appreciate you guys, and hope you guys have a fantastic Monday.